Hello, friends. Well, which one shall it be? Do you want to be fully sovereign, or do you want to keep complying? This is the place where all of us stand at some point, actually, many times. It's like over and over and over, where we have to choose. And if you really, really, really know what you want, if that is freedom, sovereignty, fully aligned with love, with truth, that means we have to give up the part that is not aligned with that. I know it sounds really simple, right? When I say it that way, like you either choose sovereignty or you don't. And the one that's, or you don't, that's a big, big bowl of insanity that we all swim around in, and we keep trying to change it, to make it better, to fix it, whatever we do. That's over here. Here is your sovereignty. It's always here. And it really is our job to go here all the time. In the beginning, we may need to put out some reminders because we are so identified with basically complying to the matrix, to the illusion, to the dream. So we do that all the time. We do it unconsciously. And of course, we don't even know we're doing it because we're doing it unconsciously. It feels like part of my expression is to make that unconscious conscious so we can see it. Because as long as something is unconscious, we are not going to change. We may get a little glimmer of it sometimes in a meditation, in some kind of an online class, in a coaching session, in a therapy session, with a spiritual teacher. And this happens, of course, all the time because you're putting yourself in a situation where there is a bigger picture where you can see something that you couldn't see before. So the light of this mirror, if we can call it that, I've talked a lot about mirrors. The light of the mirror of whoever you put yourself in front of is going to be able to reflect back to you what's going on, what's unconscious, what you're not aware of yet. And then when the mirror is shining clearly on it by whatever kind of reflection that mirror is giving, then you go, oh, oh. And then there is an energy released because you went from this to this, but this doesn't last very long because the default is this. This is the matrix, the illusion. The dream default is to just be cut off, separate from the divine, which is that sovereignty that we're all longing for. So when we have this little glimmer, we go, oh my God. But many times, as soon as you, let's say, leave my therapy room or leave the retreat you're on or the coach you're working with, this will crowd back in and you can barely remember what was that again? I've had it so many times where I've gotten an email from a client, maybe the next day, like, what was it again? And this is how we are, not because we're wrong or bad. It's simply because the density is really dense. If you haven't noticed it yet. So it takes a lot of light to break through that density so that at some point, at least there is enough light in there that you are able to see it yourself. How are you going to get that light in there? Practice, practice, and more practice. You cannot avoid the practice. What is the practice? Is keep going down, going back in, and feel what it is that you really, really, really want. That is the light that is trying to break through. In a way, it has nothing to do with you who's over here struggling, because it is the real you that you are finally feeling as a longing to be yourself again, to be sovereign again. So you get this like, whoa, oh, this is so cool. And then boop, goes back. So if you really, really want to be sovereign, and if you want to stop complying to the matrix, to the illusion, to the virtual reality that is based on a lot of nonsense in the mind. Sorry, but when you really see it, you go like, what is that? Why have I been so committed to this thing here? Because there's nothing in there that I really want. What I want is to feel at peace. I want to be relaxed. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to be in the flow. I want to feel safe, right? That's what's underlying all this stuff we do over here. That we want this. Well, where do you think you're going to find it? I'm not going to tell you the answer because you know the answer. But this thing over here is very, very tenacious because we have been feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. That if we have been giving our power to this illusion, and now we are so identified with it that we somehow think that we're going to find our real fulfillment in here. But it can't happen. Just glimpses, of course. If it was all bad and dark, we would stop looking. The tricky part is that there are good things in there. So we keep hoping like, oh, here it is. Like, oh, here it is. And that's all we do. I do it. No, I don't do it as much, but I've certainly lived my life like that. But when we really want sovereignty, we have to pay a price for that. The price for sovereignty is this thing over here. Well, it's not this thing, it is our complying and accepting and relying and believing this thing. So it is something in here that goes here instead of here. That's how it works. That's how simple it is. But this is like a monster because we have been feeding it. So it's like when we stop feeding that seeming monster, in the beginning, it's going to growl and say, feed me, feed me. It's going to get really upset and it's going to do everything it can to pull you back to feed it. Feeding it what? Fear. Fear and more fear. We feed the monster what it needs to survive and to grow and be strong. We feed it with fear because the monster says, if you don't feed me, you won't be able to pay your mortgage. Nobody's ever going to love you. Your business is not going to take off. All that stuff, right? Fear. So we go, okay, I'll give you my energy. And then off you go, trying harder, pushing more, being more driven, all based on fear. And the more we do it, the further we move away from what we want. What do you want? Just tell it to yourself. What is it that you want? I know you don't want this. I know you don't want it, and you know it too. So when are you going to take the scissors and clip? Say, we're done. We're done. And like I say, when you stop feeding it, it's going to get stronger. It's going to try harder to get your attention, to get your energy and your fear. You need to stand very, very strong. So that's why I always say, if you know what you want, you need to give your energy to that, not to this. So that is the practice. And I want to always just say, we're not talking about bypassing. For most of us, we do need to do some work in here. This is so strange. There's again a hand that goes up, and there's just me here. So weird. This here is not just gonna go. So you are the one that needs to go. But if you are stuck in there with an energy and you just say, no, I'm not going to go there anymore, that may be a bypass. And most people do bypass because they don't know what else to do. And that's when we do need to go in there and do some work. And it can be deep, powerful work for one reason: to loosen the grip on this monster, on the matrix, to soften the grip so that you can literally slip out with all of you intact. And then you can drop in here. So you're not leaving a fist in there, clenching, trying to come here, trying to come here. It's not going to work. You are doing whatever work you need to do to soften the grip. And now you have yourself intact, and you can choose to come back here. My friends, it all comes down to this. What do you want more than anything? And if you really know that and feel that, the next question is, are you willing to do whatever it takes to give in exchange the part that you really don't want? The fear, the anxiety, the drivenness, separation. That's the whole structure that we have to be willing to hand over. I say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to hand it over. And that's where many times, that's where a lot of the deeper work has to happen. And that's, of course, something that we have to feel into what needs to happen. And I would be happy to help you with that if you want to set up a self-discovery session with me. But if you want sovereignty, you must also want to not comply to the matrix, to not give your energy to the falls to this separate sense of self. So your yes to sovereignty has to be infinitely bigger than your no to resisting it. And this no that is denying and resisting and turning away from what you want, that is the one that we work with. And we do it with love, clarity, safety, but also with firmness. There is a point where we have to set some clear boundaries to this one. But you can't do it too soon. It's kind of, there's not like you do this, this, and this. No, everybody's different. And it becomes like this energetic thing. We just need to learn to, it's like what's Qigong or Tai Chi, where you just work with the energies and you feel what's needed at what time. And that's part of the learning to trust this because it knows. And when I say it, I, your I am knows. So it's learning to really go in and listen long enough till you really can feel it. And then you have to stay with that. I don't know if I can say it any more clearly, but there is no in between. There is no in between. There is really just, do you want to be sovereign? Do you want to be free? Or do you want to keep giving your energy to what you do not want? Let's take a deep breath on that. And let yourself feel how that lands for you. For many people, when it's so clear, there's a lot of fear that comes up because we know we have to give up a lot of things in here that we kind of like and that we don't want to be without. So then the question is, do you want this more than this? Then by all means, do it. At some point, we have to let that go too. But again, if it's too soon, if it's going to be a bypass, then you may need to live that out until you're very clear, like, no, yeah, I thought I wanted it, I really don't want that. I want this. So let this bubble up to the surface so you can see it and know that there is a choice that needs to be made that can only be made by you. I'm happy to help you with that. And it can be very supportive and supporting to have somebody help you see what's going on and help you choose and re-choose. This is not just you, this is everybody. This is for all of us. But I can tell you, when I see a client just coming back like fully like owning themselves, it's like a whole new energy that's coming out. And because they're like, I am done with that kind of whatever it is. And then this energy starts coming alive. And boy, if there's anything that touches me, it's to see how my clients come back to that, or anybody, when I see somebody fully embracing who they are and really making that change and cutting off the areas of their lives that have been preventing them from being here. That's that's amazing. That's amazing. And it's possible for all of us. All right, friends, I will see you again soon. Have a great day.